Welcome to the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, featuring stellar conversations with emerging and established wickedly smart women. Thanks for joining us today as we celebrate women who are committed, care deeply, and have the courage to take action and create conscious change all around the world. Now here's your wickedly smart host, Anjel B. Hartwell.
Welcome to another episode of the Wickedly Smart Women podcast, where we celebrate wickedly smart women and provide our listeners with a wealth of wisdom, along with immediately actionable steps to be smarter, spunkier, and more successful in their impact and their leadership. This is your host, Anjel B. Hartwell, and today we welcome our very, very, very special guest, Lisa Sasevich. If you love what you do, but you hate the sales part, you will profit from this beautiful guest, Lisa Sasevich, who is called many things: the queen of sales conversion, creator of the Invisible Close training programs, an Inc. 500 fastest growing privately held company for 2 years in a row, and seller of $30 million of her own products and services from home with 2 toddlers in tow. I call Lisa an industry genius, but I also call her my very first, most prized mentor. And she teaches heart-centered entrepreneurs like us how to sell without being pushy or salesy. She's a master at creating simple structures that can bring you huge profits fast. And we are going to jump right in today, Lisa. I am so delighted to have you here. Let me just give our listeners a little bit of backstory. Back in the day, 16 years ago, I discovered Lisa Sasevich. Actually, it was maybe 15 years ago. So it was 2009. I discovered Lisa Sasevich when I was at a turning point in my life. I had been called. I had this huge calling to serve people. And I had come out of the real estate industry, and I had my own art gallery and healing arts center for a few years. And then I just was called to speak. And I was a single mom. And I looked at the speaking industry and I said, I can't go out and speak 265 out of 365 days a year on the road as a single mother. And divine intervention brought Lisa Sasevich into my life. And I went to one of her events, one of her very first events. And I went to that event and I was shocked when she made a $100,000 offer and 12 people went back to the back of the room. I said, oh my God, there's people in this room that have that kind of money. I was shocked at having that experience. And I left that event, and that was in May of 2009. She did that event with another person, and that was in May of 2009. And I knew in October of 2009, when I went back, I knew I was buying whatever she was selling, and I brought my home equity with me. And she became my very first mentor, and it is her that I credit for having created multiple millions of dollars from home, mostly in my pajamas. So thank you, Lisa, for being amazing, and welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for that. It's amazing to think, that for those of you like watching the clock and wondering, maybe you've already, hit your mark of making the difference you want to make. Maybe it's still coming in your future. All that started for me at 40. And I like to share that because I hear people, in their 30s and even, heading toward their 40s or in their 40s feeling like, oh, I'm so far along. It's so late. Am I going to be able to make the difference I want to make and amass the fortune that I want to amass and leave the legacy? For most people, that's the big thing that I want to leave for, in the world and for my family. And the lights really turned on for me in knowing what my focus was, that focus which attracted you and so many other amazing people to our campus, that I know you're still in touch with so many of them. So many have been guests on the show. And so sometimes, it takes a minute. And at 40, I really stepped into this version of myself, the queen of sales conversion, as you shared. And I feel really blessed. I just celebrated my 56th birthday. The kids are, my youngest is off to college in August. I don't know what I'm going to do without her because she's also my bestie. You may remember she was like 5 years old and singing Party in the USA on my stage when you came around. So, she's full grown and going off to to Manhattan to go to college. And I'm in California. You work so hard to raise them on the beach in San Diego, and they want to go freeze their butt off in Manhattan. Go figure. But all of that, hearing all of that, really makes my heart sing, and seeing what you've accomplished, really, really makes my heart sing. And you, Anjel, were really one of the early people on our campus to get what we called the 3 years to 7 figures award. You grabbed the work and ran with it and impacted so many people, and you did it through generosity with me and on our campus, and the way that you're still giving here with these interviews. So just when it comes to the inner game of money, when it comes to your wealthy system, just you exude everything around people being able to ask for and receive more. And so anyway, I'm just so happy that I could be a pebble in your pond, and I'm an open book today. So whatever you want to talk about, be it irresistible offers, life paths, knowing you're enough, speaking to sell, you name it, we can go there.
Beautiful. Well, I think what I want to do, Lisa, for those women who are out there in the audience who are maybe where you were when you first stepped into the role that that I met you in, you had just come out of a career where you weren't making a whole lot of money annually relative to what you were able to make when you stepped into who you became, the queen of sales conversion. So I'd love to have you speak a little bit about that moment. Was there a moment where you can point to where you made the rite of passage, where you said, I am willing to value myself at a higher level and put myself into a position where I can generate exponentially more money? Because I remember when we met, you had been making $150,000 a year, and then all of a sudden you had a $2 million event, right?
Yeah.
At that event where I brought my home equity was your first only, it was your first doing it by yourself event. And I was the first at the back table with my check. Mm-hmm. So, if you could talk a little bit about what happened for you to allow you to make that identity shift.
There's two things. I will narrow it to a moment, but there were two moments, one that I didn't choose and one that I chose. So it's kind of like the school of hard knocks, and then, the choices that come after. The one that I didn't choose was that I was fired from, a dream job, literally, the night before Christmas Eve. Thank God I'm Jewish. But I had a newborn and a 3-year-old, and I thought that I would be working at this personal development company that taught relationships. And the female founder was like a female mentor of my life. My mom passed away when I was very young, so I had just a very important relationship with her. And when things happened where she just felt she was going in a different direction, and she didn't need my service anymore, it wasn't aligned to have me there anymore, it really took me off guard, because the conversations we had, there was trust, and I thought I would be there forever. Now, in hindsight, that was my dark night of the soul. So that's one of the things that happened, that happened, and I didn't choose that. I would have stayed there forever. I couldn't understand it. In my reign at that company, we went from 300,000 in sales to 1.3 million in sales. How could you get rid of me? I'm making this place, was sort of my egoic thought at the time. And when I look back, thank God she did that for me, because I really would have stayed there forever. And I loved that work. I still do. It was my own. I highly recommend the work of this company. It's actually called PAX Programs. The work of Allison Armstrong, if you can get it on Audible, her courses and stuff are now there for 1 credit. It's so good. Celebrating Partnership, I found there recently. It's so good. So I have so much gratitude now, but at the time, I'm sitting with a newborn and a 3-year-old, and it was not the future I thought we were going to have. But what happened from that is it caused me to look and see, what was it that had me be so successful there, that helped, raise revenues in that company by $1 million in, a few short years. What was it that I was doing over and over again for other companies that was my gift. And to really have me narrow in on something you referred to when we were talking prior to this interview, my dime, I call it. Like, what is if you were standing, we're all walking around, but if I was to inch on over to like that exact point, like the size of a dime, that is my gift in the world, it had me go on a couple-year journey to try to figure out, what did I have in common that had me help so many companies, and how could I do that for myself? And so that's the moment I didn't choose, and it set me on that path that, kind of felt like I didn't choose. I just would have rather just been my comfortable job. The moment I did choose, and the one that really I feel like any of us could choose at any time, I call it assume the throne. So when I finally started to see that what it is that I brought to these different companies, organizations, that was the magic piece, that it was around sales conversion, that it was around them having clarity on what they offered, being able to say it clearly, being able to package it in a way and present it in a way that hit the markers that people need to be able to say, yes, I need that, and then, like you said, just jump in and invest right on the spot. So when I realized that, and now we call that the queen of sales conversion, right? I realized I sort of had, once I realized it, I sort of sat on it for a while. Like, I was waiting to be recognized for it. Like, why didn't she keep me? She obviously recognized it. And I guess I was sort of waiting for someone to knock on my door and say, hey, well, I've listened to, all your talks and interviews, and I've gone to all the companies you've worked for, and I just want to, give you this award, Lisa. Here's the crown. You're the queen of sales conversion. But, I kind of waited and waited for a couple of years, and nobody ever came. And it finally dawned on me that I could crown myself. And that was the moment that in fact, it's funny, where is it? Oh, it's always close by. that I could crown myself the queen of sales conversion. And so I did. I assumed that title. I just gave it to myself. I started teaching about the irresistible offer. I sort of narrowed it down, that was the piece that was really, making profits pop and making companies that were doing all this activity, but not really going forward. They were almost like jumping up and down. It was the irresistible offer that would help them actually go forward with profits and making a difference and having clients. And so when I crowned myself the queen of sales conversion, it was such an interesting thing, because people just started to relate to me as that. And the thing that shocked me most is, like, no one ever came to the door and said, hello, we are the auditing company for titles, and we want to just check your stats. Are you really the queen of sales conversion? What was your conversion on your last webinar, your last stage talk, your last event? Like, no one ever questioned it. Now, a lot of that is because it was congruent. Like, I truly would, lead these intros for, the company I referenced, and, 70% of the women would sign up for our weekend course. And I'd go home and obsess about what I could do to follow up with the other 30%. Like, I didn't know that in the world of speaking from the stage and webinars and all the one-to-many offers, I didn't know that, 10% is an amazing statistic. So when I started sharing, started getting some coaching and mentorship, which is why, the work we both do as coaches and mentors is so important. It was in the reflection of a mentor that it was like, what? Wait, stop. You do 70% of the room is buying your stuff? I didn't know that was a good thing. I didn't know it was $1 billion industry of people who, speak and close sales or get appointments from the stage. And so it was really, the moment was crowning myself the queen of sales conversion. I call it assuming the throne. Any of us can do it. It works if you're actually congruent with what you're, crowning yourself. If I, was not doing well and I was crowning myself, that's like the emperor with no clothes. People find out.
Exactly.
And the beautiful thing about assuming the throne, guys, is that you not only does it acknowledge what you've done up to now, but I also kept and keep, even to this day, stepping into that title, at higher and higher levels. So it has this sort of upward spiral effect of owning everything up to now, plus the growth that is to come with that title. So,
yeah, beautiful. Yeah. Well, so listeners, there's something special here that I want you to hear. One piece of this is that she did wait. You waited for a couple of years. And
Yeah.
that is something in my
Yeah.
own work, in the Wealthy Life method that
Yeah.
I've distilled. One of the ways that we ward off wealth is by waiting on. You're waiting on the outside world to crown you, and the real work here was for you to crown yourself. So listeners, if you are in waiting on, it's time to crown yourself. We are going to go to a quick break now, and when we come back, I'm going to let you know where you can find out more about Irresistible offers and where you can get in touch with Lisa. But right now, we could use your help. If you're enjoying this show, please consider joining our community, making a donation at wickedlysmartwomen.com, and sharing with your lovely lady friends that might benefit from our content. Help a gal out and let your sisters, mothers, daughters, friends, and colleagues know about the show so that we can serve them too. I want to say a huge thank you to all of our listeners who are downloading, rating, and reviewing. We're welcoming thousands and thousands of downloads from all over the world. Shout out this week to our listeners in Romania, the Republic of Lithuania, and Brazil. And we will be right back with Lisa Sasevich, the queen of sales conversion.
The Wickedly Smart Women podcast is brought to you by the Wealthy Life Mentor. Women, are you on the edge knowing that life is calling you to make a change? Are you ready to be part of the evolution of what it means to be a wickedly smart woman, creating your wealthy life by design, a life that is an extraordinary work of art? Anjel B. Hartwell, the Wealthy Life Mentor, is hired by women in transition, women just like you who want to break through to their brilliance, become clear on the value of their wisdom, and embody a beauty-filled, balanced life of shameless self-expression. Discover your wealthy life readiness by taking the quiz at quiz.wealthylifementor.com.
And we are back with Lisa Sasevich. You can find out more about Lisa at lisasasevich.com/IOB. And we will have that for you in the show notes. IOB stands for Irresistible Offer Blueprint. So before we went to the break, Lisa was talking about irresistible offers and how creating those irresistible offers allowed her to create $1 million increase in sales for the first company that she worked with. And she's actually created, I don't know, I think the bio might have been incorrect. I might have misread that because I thought the last time I checked that you have sold like closer to 70 or 60 million dollars in your own business. It's like, I think it's more than 30. So you want to go and grab that right away at lisasasevich.com/IOB. Tell our listeners what they're going to find when they get there.
Yeah, the Irresistible Offer Blueprint is, a lot of things that I just don't have time to share in this brief podcast about how you can put together offers that are truly irresistible to the people who need your work. And, if the offer is really irresistible, you don't need to sell. It's selling without being salesy when someone says, "Thank you. I've been looking for that exact thing packaged that way. I love the bonuses. Oh, there's a limiter. It's the first X people," or it teaches you all the tips and tricks to how to put together not just an offer, but an offer that your ideal client will thank you for. So enjoy it. I believe there's also a coupon code in there if you love that to get started with our first course called Nail Your Offer. So look for that. And, we're here. You can find me on any social channel, and I'm always happy to hear from you.
Excellent. Well, Lisa is the queen. She's the queen of sales conversion. Speak to Sell is trademarked. I think that's a trademark of yours. So if there's anybody out there that you are looking at in this area of selling, speaking to Sell, she's the one that you want to really drink from her well deeply. And yeah. And Lisa, so one of the things that happened for us too was when we were initially connected with one another, not only was I your client, but you were also my client. And one of the pieces of work that I helped you with was really stepping into your leadership, because that was also a turning point for you when you left a job and you stood in your own business. It's a different world. So if you could speak a little bit about that part of the journey as well for our listeners, because yes, you had to crown yourself queen of sales conversion, but you also had to like really create a new inner world for yourself in order to allow that to happen. So could you speak just a little bit about what you did then and what you're doing now to continue to reinforce yourself and your decisions.
Yeah, I do, thank you for bringing that piece of our history up. I mean, you are the master at the inner game of wealth, the inner game of money, the inner game of more. And, one of the things that I noticed when I first went out with my own work is like I had sold millions of dollars for big companies, for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, for Hewlett Packard, right? I could just do, for anybody else, game on. But the first time I went out there with my own offer, my own work, I remember speaking for a group up in LA, a small group of women, very safe, very intimate. And my hands were visibly shaking. I had sweat. I wore a silk blouse and I had sweat rings like down to my waist. And I realized, and that is so much of why I put together the Speak to Sell formula. It's just like, how do you nail your offer and then build a talk that leads to it so that you can have clarity, you can have confidence with making that offer in any situation, live and nowadays virtually. So, yeah, stepping up, and I think many of you could probably relate to this. Promoting somebody else or working for a company is one thing, but when it's your own thing, it's so different. And some of the reasons are, number one, it's personal, right? If I make the offer for Hewlett Packard and they don't buy the printer, say la vie. But when I make an offer for my own work, for me to help you with your irresistible offer, with putting together your talk or webinar, right? And you're not interested, then I feel that then there's a personal nature for it. So it's much more intimate. You feel much more exposed. And frankly, when we're doing the other piece about it is we care. It's like, I know if you're here listening to Anjel, it's you're mission driven, right? And so the other thing about our work, I'd say for majority of you here, I'd guess, is that, not only is it personal, but it's also something we care about in the world. So just all of that tends to exacerbate the need to really work on your mindset, understand what you're offering, be able to articulate it clearly, right? Also, be able to own the outcome or the transformation, the value of it. One of the things that was one of the biggest things that I had to come to learn to be able to make those 25, 50, and $100,000 offers that Anjel's talking about that I make from my events, for people to be in our tutelage, our courses and our programs for a year at a time, sometimes multiple years, is that it wasn't that people are saying yes or no to me, right? And this may help some of you that are finding this resistance. It's really, if you're clear on the transformation you're offering, in essence, they're saying yes or no to themselves and that transformation. Some folks will complain and complain, but when offered a solution, are they really up for the transformation, right? So realizing that what you're doing is you're setting the stage for people to be able to say yes or no to the transformation for themselves. It's not necessarily for you. And
Right.
that was a big mindset shift that I had to realize to just be able to go out in the world powerfully and make my offer over and over again.
And over and over again.
And
And you
over and
have
over
done that so well.
again.
I would agree with you. There's also more on the line, I think. In your case, when you stepped into your power and started doing what you were doing, often inevitably there's also fallout in our relationships when we go to that bigger level. And for me, when I stepped into the work with you, I was recently divorced. And so there was a lot on the line. I needed to make money to put a roof over my kid's head and shoes on his feet. And one of the things that I am so appreciative of is everything that I learned through my 5 years in the Sassy Mastermind, and then an extra add-on year at the end when you were ending, because my upstairs team said, you've got to go back for the last year. When you were ending that structure of doing your business, was that, because of the way you simplified the structures and because of the thoroughness of your teaching, but also the clarity of your intent, I was able to take your work and translate it into the virtual world and be the speaker who was able to be on virtual stages. I was the one that everybody was like, how do you do that? You're everywhere. And I was able to make multiple millions of dollars from home in my pajamas as a single mom, thanks to you. So I just really want to emphasize that it's not always about being on a live stage either. And now certainly times have changed significantly, and most people are doing business virtually as well. So in the last 3 minutes or so that we have here, Lisa, if there's one either client story that's a real success that you want to celebrate, or life transition since we first met, and it was like 15 years ago now, so it's a long time. If there was a major life transition either in your life or business, maybe let's talk about when you decided to stop the Sassy Mastermind, because that was like a bold move for you to do that. You were making millions and millions of dollars a year. Let's talk about that.
Not only were we, doing that, but we were also like probably one of the highest profit margins I've seen in our industry, because most of the big greats in different segments of the entrepreneurial space are or have been my clients. I still do a lot of VIP clients. People fly in for VIP days. But for 10 years, what Angel's talking about is I would do these online launches with affiliates, like 7-figure online launches. In a 2-week period, we'd have 1,000 people buy our Speak to Sell program. And then we'd have those people invited to a live event, and we'd do, 7 figures of sales into our year-long mastermind. And we did that for a decade, 2 events a year. So basically 20 consecutive 7-figure events in 10 years. So I own the trademark for event profit secrets. And it's one of the things that I work with VIPs on now is their stage talks and their live events and their high ticket offers. And the transformation of rolling that down was really like, I love how you say the upstairs team, God, trusted source. I was just really getting the message that I didn't need to say it again. It's in our programs, it's all recorded. There are VIPs that I can really get behind. But that this time with both my kids in high school was really precious. And I've come to learn they need you more, your availability more than when they're little and you're driving them around. It's really more when they cruise through in their own car, you want to be there. And, I just got back from 8 days on the East Coast with like college tours with my daughter, the whole thing. So it's an interesting transition. And what I want to share about it is that even though it's been almost 5 years since I'm not having large events and large online launches, our stuff's available for sale. People find me, I'm participating in all different ways. My mission has not changed. I am as passionate from the day I figured it out that all of you know your offer, that you are clear about it, that you're confident and ready to make your offer in any situation. You're Oprah ready, right? And it's just that the way I'm delivering it now has changed. And I think you're all going to see as you clarify your own offer, there's just going to be times in your life where you want to travel, you want the big stage. There's going to be times in your life where you want, high ticket, very intimate, small amount of people to focus on. It doesn't mean you've given up your mission just because you've given up a certain structure of how you're delivering your mission. And I had to learn that through going through, all of the transitions myself.
I love that. Well, and I also had to do the same thing. I'm intimate now as well. It's just, it serves me better. And we all have to find our way to knowing what allows us to thrive individually and not look at as my yoga teacher says, don't look at other people's mats. Look at other people's mats for inspiration, but not for, self-abuse. We don't want to look at other people's mats for self-abuse purposes. We look at other people's mats for inspiration. I am so grateful for your time here together with me today, Lisa. Thank you so much. Listeners, we love feedback. Please let us know what you think of today's episode. Definitely get a hold of that irresistible offer blueprint at lisasasevich.com/IOB. Go right now to wickedlysmartwomen.com to join our community, share your takeaways, ask questions, or submit guest suggestions. Thanks for tuning in. Keep your ears open. And remember, you are a wonderful woman.
Thanks for tuning in, downloading, and listening. Be sure to rate and review Wickedly Smart Women on Apple Podcasts and share with other women who can benefit from today's episode. Wickedly Smart Women is the premier podcast series for informing, activating, and inspiring the leader who carries profound wisdom and knows that now is the time to welcome wealth. We welcome your feedback and guest suggestions and invite you to subscribe to our mailing list to be notified of each new episode at wickedlysmartwomen.com.